Yo, what is going on, guys? Winner Kills here, and welcome to a brand new Locals feature match. Here we are in round 2 for the week. This is actually for my last Tuesday's Locals. Normally I record on Saturday Locals, but I'm trying to get into the habit of recording on both Tuesdays and Saturdays, mainly just so I have backup footage just in case, Locals gets canceled like it has been on and off the past couple years, obviously due to the pandemic. And just so if I cannot make it to a Saturday local or a Tuesday local, right, I have footage for the week to give you guys some content. So it's kind of a win-win. A little more work for me, but, could come in very, very clutch at points. So yeah, this is from my Tuesday matches, or Tuesday locals, as I did not go to my last Saturday locals. We have Swordsoul versus Invoked Springan here, which... The Invoked Springan deck was in a feature match from last week. You guys were very interested in this deck. We didn't get to see much of the Springan engine in that particular video. However, I think we'll get to see a little bit more in this particular matchup. So we're going to see Swordsoul end on a very standard board here, Mo Yi and Long Yun. Going for Chi Zhao and the Sinister Swordsoul Sovereign. Sinister Sovereign, however it's pronounced, or whatever it's called. But this one actually burns 12 pretty much anytime you try to do something, long and short of it. I'll go ahead and pull it up real quick for those that don't know what it does, but it's their brand new synchro out of Battles of Chaos. It says if you synchro summon another worm synchro monster while this monster is on the field, you can draw a card. If your opponent special summons a monster except during the damage step, you can banish one of those monsters if you do inflict 1200 damage to your opponent. When your opponent activates a spell/trap card or effect, quick effect, you can banish this card, and if you do inflict 1200 damage to your opponent. So it does minus 1200 a lot. Yeah. Is it better than making Baron? Hard to tell, at least blind anyways. Yeah, hard to tell. So we have the Chi Zhao with the Sinister Sovereign, which again burns 12 anytime you try to just do anything, going against the normal summon of Alistair. And one set, which is either probably an imperm or a blackout if it's a blackout. And he searched and I didn't see it. I was reading the text of the Sinister Sovereign, so my apologies. So we'll see a normal summon Alistair. Will it resolve? Looks like Chi Zhao will say otherwise. But how good is our Invoked player? Did he already open the invocation? It doesn't look like it here, but maybe he's going to go ahead and try and bluff like he did. Maybe try and burn, one of his effects, one of his opponent's effects. We'll see him make the Secure Gardna, and it looks like he has Punishment, a Springan Trap, and something else. We're going to see him activate the Great Sand Sea Gold Golgonda, which is the field spell. It says all Springans exceeds monsters on the field gain 1000 attack. You can omit each of the following effects of Great Sand Sea once per turn. If you control no Springan exceeds monster, you can discard a card. Discard one Springan's card, special summon from your one Springan exceeds monster from your extra deck. If a face-up exceeds monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, considering the damage step, you can target one monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack for the rest of the turn. So we're gonna see him activate the field spell. Sinister Sovereign is going to banish it on activation, and make his opponent take 12. So Sinister Sovereign really shining here against continuous and field, spells. Not so much against regular spells, but really shining against field spells because, they kind of need to be on the field to do anything, especially if they don't have effects on activation. Well, even if they do, if they're continuous and field alike, if they get banished when they're activated, they will not be able to resolve, kind of how if you MST a tanky, it, and, in a sense, negates it. We're going to see normal summon a Taie get Veilered, and then we're going to see an E-Telly follow up here into a Ghost Ogre. And this is not looking good here for our Invoked Springan player. Really didn't see probably the best part of his engine. He saw Alistair, but he did have the stop for it, which does hurt quite a bit. I think he had a copy of Springan's Interluder in hand. He says that's what that trap card looks like. We're going to see him activate Punishment. And I could just Sinister Sovereign here again, just to burn for more damage here, I believe. Just because, why not? Just burn for a ton of damage. I just want to read this card again. Let's see here. If your opponent special summons a monster, yeah, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or a quick effect, and banish that card if you inflict 1200 damage to your opponent. So he could just easily just banish this punishment here. It obviously won't negate the punishment because, you know, MST doesn't negate in that sense. But he could just burn his opponent for another 12 if he feels like doing so. But it looks like he will not. I mean, is there a reason not to, though? You know what I mean? Is there a reason not to just burn 12? But either way, we're going to... Well, if there was a burn 12 there, it got stopped by the Secure Gardener. Anyways, because I think it would stop the first amount of damage that you take. We're going to see Chi Zhao and Tai like swing in for just a little bit of damage here. And then we're going to see a punishment get activated. Another punishment, back-to-back punishments here. Kind of slowing the game down a little bit for our Invoked Springan player. Obviously, this is going to lock him out of the extra deck. We're going to see him dump Titaniclad. That's going to clear the Tai. You want to get that off the field for the next turn, and Titaniclad tries to activate. There's Ash. And, yeah. I mean, Long Yun, pitch Vishuda, summon token. Yeah, this is pretty deadly here. The Adara is going to add back the Mo Yi, and then banishing the Vishuda to bounce a back row here. And then synchroing into Baron pretty much secures it with that extra burn 12. Yeah, just burn, 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 burn. Pretty annoying to deal with. So we're going to see them go into game 2. And we're going to see Invoked lead. Alistair just will not resolve. We're going to see the Gold Sea activate, pitching the Springan's Branga, I believe is the name. And I think he's going to go ahead and attempt to summon a Springan's Xyz from the extra deck. And we're going to see him summon the Merry Maker, I believe is the name. Yeah, I usually see X-Blower get summoned, but I think this is one of the newer ones. It says this card is special summoned from your extra deck. You can send one Springan monster from your deck to the graveyard. So we'll see if that happens here. Looks like it already is. Yeah, send a Springan's monster from the deck to the graveyard, and then during your opponent's main or battle phase, quick effect, you can banish this card until the end phase. Then if you banish this card with 2 or more materials, you can also send one fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that lists Fallen of Albaz as material. So that's pretty strong as well. So you can dump, I think, Titaniclad or the other Springans, or Sprind. Yeah, Sprind, the Iron Dash Dragon, which is basically Titaniclad, but for Springan monsters. So we're going to go ahead and see him dump one there. I think that is... I can't really tell which one that is. It might be the Captain Sargus. Hard to tell. Very new to me, all these Springan cards. But yeah, as I get started in Game 2 here, I'd like just to mention, you know, ways you guys can support the channel outside of just watching, using my discount code WinterKill off at checkout on ImperiumDuelist.com, or using the affiliate links I have to either TCGplayer.com or thecoldestwater.com. Again, all those affiliate links and codes can be found in the descriptions of all my videos. So definitely check that out, or consider becoming a member of the channel today. Link in the description as well. So we're going to see him get the 2 materials on there. And then we're going to see our Swordsoul player lead with Long Yun pitching Blackout. And then we're going to go ahead and see the Merrymaker activate, banishing itself, dumping Titaniclad, and I think this is attempting to get rid of the Long Yun. Send one fusion monster from your extra deck. So, okay. It'd be nice if it could also pop a card that it sent. But we will see. Again, a lot of these cards, I really don't understand what the Springan cards do yet. So I thought it would be offering some kind of removal. But that Captain Sargus says, if this card is in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can target one Springan Xyz monster you control, attach this card to it as material. And then during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can detach one material from an Xyz monster you control, target a face-up card in the field, destroy it. Yeah, so not doing a whole lot here. We'll see the Long Yun burn 12 get negated essentially by the Secure Gardener, and then battle phase go over top of Secure Gardener. And then we're going to see the Merrymaker return. Sorry if I'm missing some things here, but yeah, a lot of these Springan cards I'm very, very unfamiliar with, and I'm trying to do this, you know, blind essentially. I do have the cards pulled up here, so I'm not completely blind, because I don't want to be completely useless in the commentary like I can be sometimes. We're going to see the Titaniclad get Ash. We're going to see, I think it was called the Branga, It says, if the card in your hand, field, or graveyard, target Springan exceeds monster control, attach this card to this material. So just another card that can go ahead and attach itself to give a card like Merrymaker, you know. The material is needed to be essentially like, kind of like an Endear Servant, kind of like that, mixed with like a Time Thief Redoer. Kind of nice because if these cards have effects to detach, it'd be nice to have an easy way to get materials underneath them. So I kind of like that mechanic. So now we're going to see him banish Bronga from the grave. You can banish this card and one Springan's monster with a different name from your graveyard to add a Springan's card from your deck to your hand. So that is essentially just going to be a Rhoda in the grave, and we're going to see him add the Interluder, I believe, is the name of the trap here. And this trap is actually pretty decent. It says, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return one Springan's exceeds monster control of the extra deck, then apply one of these effects. Negate that activate effect, or special summon a level 8 monster from your graveyard. Unfortunate that you have to bounce a whole ass Exceeds monster back to the extra deck, but with given how easy they are to summon in this deck, it's not a huge loss, but yeah. So we'll see him search the trap, set on the Exceeds, and pass turn. And Swordsoul really just only having a Baron here to work with. I see a Desk Bot in hand. I see a Long Yun, but looks like no way to actually play currently. And a copy of Ash and Nib again in the hand for our Invoked Springan player. We're going to see Baron just pop the trap. Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to get forced out that easily, but, you know, I mean, it's not even getting used anyway, so you don't want to just burn the trap to negate the Baron, and then lose your Xyz if he decides to let that just go through. But we're going to see battle phase here. Baron attempt to attack into the Xyz. There's a little bit of confusion as to how the Xyz worked, how many materials it needs, but only needs 2 materials to go ahead and dump from the extra deck. Just needs, I don't think it needs any materials, just go ahead and tag out. But the tag out effect will actually get negated, and we'll see Baron swing in for 3k. So just pushing buttons here for the Swordsoul player. Yeah, really be like that sometimes. Sometimes your opponent is just be pushing buttons. Yeah, so we're going to see him just pass turn. Luckily, no Swordsoul cards. And then there's the punish. Meltdown off the top. No Omni negate for it from the Baron. And that is going to resolve to go ahead and grab the Alistair here. Now let's see if Alistair can resolve. Probably pretty happy to see that go through here. Going to go ahead and search the Invocation. And things can probably get rolling here. Start to get rolling. I think Secure Garden is already in grave. So we could technically go back, you know, banish the Alistair in grave and the Secure Garden, leave his Alistair on field. Doesn't necessarily need to get rid of that one since he already had an Alistair in grave. I was going to say, maybe that's, I mean, like, it probably doesn't make a huge difference, but like, if you don't have to, why do it, I guess? But we're going to see him banish it regardless. Going to go for Megaba, and then he's going to go ahead and add back the Invocation to the deck and add back the Alistair to the hand. So he can get over the Baron here. It's just unfortunate that he will need to go ahead and actually pitch the Alistair to get over it, which is one less monster in your hand, one less monster negate, especially since you don't really want to be pitching hand traps really to stop certain things, but I mean, it is what it is. And also you lose the battle phase protection too, very, very early on by having to use the Alistair here. It's just unfortunate because like Baron is such a threat. Not only is it just a pop every turn, during your turn only, it's not a quick effect, but you know, it can also just be a monster reborn in the standby phase or any level 9 or lower monster. Pretty good card. No wonder it fetches the price point it does, especially with only 1 printing available. So we're going to go ahead and see the Bronga activate, and that's going to go ahead and search. Yeah, and then we're going to see battle phase Mechaba over top of the Baron with the help of the Alistair. I believe he dumped and searched there. Probably just doing Springan things, if I'm being totally honest. And now we're going to see Adhara activate here. He did search the Gold Seagull Ganda, which is nice. So that'll give him an option to negate a monster or a spell here, which is better than only having the option to negate a monster. Being able to stop, you know, a Peak, or a E-Telly, or an Emergence here is pretty strong. You know, on top of being able to negate a monster. We'll see what he can do with just one Adhara here. I don't know if the game can swing really in the favor of our Invoked player here, but, you know, perhaps. We're going to see the E-Telly actually resolve here. That's going to go ahead and summon out Gamma. And I still see that Desk Bot in hand. And now we're going to see Halka Fibrax activate. That's going to get ashed. And this is going to get hard punished by normal summon Deskbot 001. You hate to see that. And then we're going to see the Auroradon get negated and banished by the Mechaba, which has got to hurt just a little bit. And then we're going to see him pass turn, activate the Gold Sea, pitching a monster to go ahead and summon out the X-Blower, the rank 8, which is the one that I recognize the most. And we'll see him swinging with that. So you can choose one of your opponent's monster zones or spell trap zones, detach any number of materials from this card, and if you do, destroy the same number of cards your opponent controls in that chosen zone and its adjacent monster zones and or spell and trap zones. And during your opponent's main or battle phase quick effect, you can banish this card until the end phase. So just another tag out. But we're going to see a top deck tie and no cards left in hand for our Springan player here. Opting to go for, being a little bit more aggressive instead of holding the cards. Having the gate and banish for that tie would have probably sealed it and took it to a game 3. Hard to say, honestly, though, based on what else he would have possibly had. So we're going to see him go Chainlink 1 Chijiao, Chainlink 2 Tai. It's going to go ahead and dump a Vishuda. And basically just free to play at this point. So kind of unfortunate. I mean, do you take that chance there to bring out the X-Blower, which maybe really isn't doing a whole lot outside of just being extra damage? If it's not going to be, an OTK or it's not going to be game, why even bother going for it, really, realistically? And we're going to see the Long Yun get summoned here, and this is probably just game right here. Of course, Baron is out of the picture, but doesn't really make too big of a difference, especially with Grand Duke available as well. Just going to go ahead and double check that field spell, make sure it isn't going to do anything here to catch him off guard. Also probably wondering whether or not he goes ahead and actually uses. I mean, he could Ashina here. I guess it technically doesn't really need to. He's going to go ahead and grab Adara, spec Adhara. I was going to say he could just like Vishuda bounce back the Mechaba and then, synchro for Grandmaster and then bounce something and then banish, field and grave. And that's just game outright, I believe. But we're going to see him go ahead and go for Grand Duke. And then link off the Adhara into the Monk, and then activate Adhara to go ahead and add back the Ashina. And then we're going to see Grand Duke trigger here since a card was banished, getting rid of the X-Blower and something from grave, and that doesn't matter anyways, because it's just game on board as is. And yeah, that's going to do it for the match. Swordsoul taking it 2-0. Looks like you guys were correct in your voting, saying that the Invoked Springan deck was going to take the L. So if you guys want to see more of my content, click on one of the videos popping up on the bottom of the screen right now. And last but not least, a huge shout out goes to our Divine Level channel members, Nader Tweeter 0226, Pony Start, Cadillacs 84, Keith Sidgers, and Black Ninja Money. Thank you guys so much, as always, for your extremely generous support of the channel.